you got to have life in the office, right? So there's got to be vibrant spaces. You get colors, plants, um, coffee, water, you know.
Welcome, everybody, to the first ever podcast related to the Boomerang brand and everything all encompassing. I am the first host of the first episode. However, I am speaking to and interviewing the actual host, Josh. Welcome to the show.
No, thanks for having me. I'm excited to get this started.
Yeah. So if you want, share your pitch and your vision, if you could, a little bit more about why do you think that this new world of internet marketing and branding and podcasting, why do you think that this is potentially the future of marketing and branding?
Well, in fairness, I think that it took a while for me to get on board. I mean, there's a ton of memes out there that are like, every entrepreneur now realizing that he has to put out social media content in addition to running his business. And, there's a lot of that funny rhetoric out there. And I kind of always really took a lot of pride in knowing that I have to kind of evolve the business as time goes on. I mean, you can't always stay static. You have to change and be willing to change and adapt with change. If you stay static, really, you kind of can be forgotten or left behind. And so really this kind of thing, which is a little bit uncomfortable, but also, the new wave came to me just because of how we've evolved over time in general. I mean, selling office furniture and being in the commercial office business and commercial real estate, really, a lot of that changed during, COVID and how we had to reinvent ourselves over a tough time period to kind of say, how do we stay in business and how do we get more business and how do we reinvent ourselves to make sure that we can stay around and have lasting power. And I think when I first started in the industry, it was old school, right? Like a lot of people will define old school as different, but in many different ways. But you basically got up and put your boots on and went out to work and grinded it out on the street, knocking on doors and, trying to make relationships. And, that was largely geographically, limited to the areas that you would be able to travel during the day. And now, I think you can expand your network in this kind of way, almost globally, not almost, definitely globally, and meeting people and kind of expanding the business no matter where you are. So instead of just having lunches in South Jersey or in Orlando or, having dinners and drinks or, playing golf or however you meet people, this is a good way to kind of connect and maybe, instead of being able to do two or three connections, because of travel times and things, you can do multiple different connections and just kind of get some insight from people that you would normally do on a daily basis that, you have in a conversation over coffee or lunch or beers and, just continue those conversations to see where people's insights are with the market, how businesses are changing, what's going on in the world in general. And, I think it'll help the business in for Boomerang and what we're doing, kind of expand our network even greater than if we were just, doing it the old fashioned way, so to speak. It's pretty exciting. I think it's just another way to communicate. Just like when email was new, people stopped sending faxes and,
Mhm.
they stopped talking on the phone as much, and they kept sending texts. And I think that, this is just a different way of communicating. And, it's like the new model phone comes out, everyone wants it. And I'm interested to see how what happens and how it can move forward. But I think just in general, regardless of whether we're talking about podcasts or business, I think you just have to be open to new things and be willing to tackle them. So that, again, you have staying power and can grow.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. The world of relevancy, unfortunately, we have the attention spans of goldfish nowadays. And if you're not making that last post, whether it be on social media or even a phone call or an email to a potential prospect, you're pretty much forgotten about. And everybody is busy and everybody has things to do. So it's always good to be able to find ways to connect with new people, different walks of life that you probably have never wanted to. There's actually a very strong chance that you probably would have never entertained a meeting with particular individuals because of X number of reasons, but you might be able to introduce them to the podcast and give them another platform to speak their share their story. I think the key word here is storytelling, and I think I'm hopeful that this is a new vehicle and platform that allows all your brands and companies to be able to do so. So I think the way that the podcast should be promoted or should be discussed is actually a more a free flowing conversation, very similar to what we're having now. But I think starting off with a little bit of fun is always important too. So fast five. I'm going to ask you 5 questions. You can rattle them off the top of your head and just give me your first initial response. Are you ready, Josh?
I'm ready.
I've known you for very
I love game shows, so this is great.
the only problem is that you win absolutely nothing. So, so the
As
first
long as I
question.
beat Adam in the next interview, that's fine.
Oh yeah, I'm going to give him quantum physics type of questions. So there's absolutely no way that he'll be able to get any of them right.
All right, good.
So first question is, I've known you for several years. Um, you are in my opinion, one of the hardest working people in the region. More specifically, you know absolutely everyone and what they're doing, probably before they even know what they're doing. How many coffees or lunches do you think that you've had over the course of your career so far?
Mm, I mean, let's see. I mean, we'll count like my entire career from college out. So, if I had to guess, let me grab my calculator. So I'm gonna do like really quick math. Um, 4,000.
4,000. That's pretty awesome. So that's like at least
An
200,
average of three per week
three per week.
for 20 years.
That's crazy. That is awesome.
It's probably more than that. And if you add dinners
And networking events and all
golf
that stuff.
courses and
Yeah.
different things like that, it's more. But yeah, I mean, I think that's like one of the things that you really have to, there's no substitute for, work, and I think you have to put time in order to be successful. I think
100%.
one of the lessons that I got when I was really young that I didn't know it was a lesson until maybe a few years ago. Um, I would always go fishing with my father, who's a big fisherman. Love to
Mm.
fish, love to go offshore. And we would fish. We would leave at like dawn, go out, and we would get nothing. Or we would get a few fish or something if we were lucky one day. But a lot of the times the nothing outweighed the actual catches, right? And we got back and one weekend my dad was like, "Hey, you want to go fishing?" I'm like, "No." I'm like, we never catch anything. I'm just going to go to the beach. I'm going to surf, or I'm going to go, I'd rather do that. And he goes, the reason why I don't catch anything is because you haven't put enough time in.
Mm.
He's like, you have to fish in order to catch.
Mm.
And, as a kid, I was like, oh, right, whatever. I didn't get it. But then as you get older and you get into business and you go, wait a minute, you're right. Like if you're sitting at home and you're not doing podcasts and you're not talking to people and you're not meeting people and you're not going to coffees and you're not, doing these things, you're not going to catch any fish. I mean, you got to put the time in. There's going to be a lot of days where you fish or weeks that you fish or months that you fish and you'll get nothing. But there will be a day when you get like a 200-pound tuna and you'll be like, you know what? It was all the time that I put in. And then it's not always like, you don't know that you're putting the time in, but it always adds up in the end. And that was one of the things that I really looked at and was like, it kind of hit late. I hope I have had done that with my own children where in 10 years or 15 years will say, oh, I didn't realize it was a lesson. And maybe I don't even think my dad knew he was teaching me a lesson, but it's the things you learn as you go through. And so I think, again, the coffees and the meetings are relevant and it's about being relevant and, putting the time in. And then if you put the time in and you go around doing the right thing every day, eventually, good things are going to happen.
My follow-up question was that exactly what you kind of reiterated. As a new father myself, and as a seasoned father yourself, has it been difficult to kind of explain that process of the fishing analogy to your own children?
Yeah, of course. I mean, there's no parenting playbook. My wife and I, Marissa, talk about it all the time. I mean, you're just like you could write a playbook, but the funny thing is that everyone's playbook will be different,
Yeah.
and even if there's like a guideline, there's really no guideline for most of the things that occur because
Yeah, for sure.
you could think that but you don't. I mean, I my boys are here today actually working.
Nice.
I think it's important to instill a work ethic, and let them know like, hey, you're going to wake up a lot of mornings, and 90% of life is just showing up. You got to just show up and you got to answer the bell. And so I think when it comes to these types of things and coffees and lunches and beers, like there's a lot of times where you're like, you know what? I don't really want to get up today, or I really don't want to go work out, or I really don't want to go do this. To be successful, you kind of have to push through that. And I think that's what people talk about the 1% all the time. And the 1% is not all financial, right?
Yeah.
Like everyone kind of defaults to the financial portion of that, but the 1% is really, are you doing more than 99% of the other people are willing
100%.
to do, right? They'll
100%.
do it, but it's about the consistency in doing that. So waking up, going to work, doing the work ethic, doing the right thing every day. Those are the things. If you can instill that, then, it's up to them to create the life they want. But,
Amen.
you have to make sure that you're teaching them how to at least be a contributing member to society.
Amen, man. That's beautiful. Well said. I, as a new father myself, I was very logical. I have a very logical brain where if it doesn't make sense or add up, like I question it to the fullest extent. And I always asked friends. I think I even asked yourself, like, "Hey, do you have any piece of advice or feedback or anything like that?" And everybody said the same thing, kind of like what you said. The playbook is going to be different. I'm like, no, there has to be something that you can do in order to perform these actions. And in living it, now I'm like, yeah, I mean, it's different. It's
Yeah.
everybody is different. Like one
Oh, yeah.
kid is going to sleep 12 hours, another kid may not, but I think, having a good partner I think is really important.
Well, each stage is different too. I mean, you're in the stage now that everyone goes, "What's your favorite stage of raising a kid?" or "What's your
Yeah.
favorite age?" And the truth is that my favorite age is the present age.
Mm.
It's always the favorite age, right? You're like, I can't imagine this. Like, there's so many cliches, like, right, little kids, little problems, big kids, big problems. You're gonna miss this, like all kinds of stuff like that. And the reality is that if you just keep living in the present, you're not
Mm.
gonna miss anything, right? Because that's all you have, right? I mean, you have to just make sure you make the most of what you have in the present. And you know, raising the kids, like, quite frankly, I loved it when they were little. It was great. I see my friends who have babies now, like you and some of my other friends, and I'm like, that's great, but I don't miss it. Like I don't want to go back to it, but I also, I have a 17-year-old and a 14-year-old and a 12-year-old, and it's like we're having a great time, and they're independent and they're free thinking, and they're doing things that you've kind of molded since they were just these little babies, and now you're seeing them do it. You've kind of steered them to do, and a lot of times they don't do what you want them to do.
Mhm.
And the hardest part in that is just knowing and trusting yourself that you just kind of instilled the right values at a young age, that they're going to do the right things, but also take solace in the fact that it's not your life, and you have to make sure that you just gave them the proper foundation to make the right choices. And that's really exciting right now too. But I don't want to go back, and then, and I try not to look too far forward because you want to live in the present, but like, I'm really excited when maybe the boys are able to, have, careers, whether it's here or elsewhere, or, we get to go over to their house and meet their future wife or their kids, that's cool, but that'll come.
Yeah.
It'll come faster than you can realize, but it'll come. And then, I think that knowing that kind of helps you not miss the things that you think that you missed, or want to, not miss. I think people always talk about that, but just kind of live in that present time. I kind of think I got a little bit off topic here. I kind of do that. I ramble in the stream of consciousness, but yeah,
Hey, guess what? The segment that I originally said was Fast Five, but it turned into an incredible conversation. And that's just kind of the beauty of it, right? Like
yeah, yeah,
sometimes you just go on these really deep and incredible holes, and you learn more about an individual that you never understood before,
yeah.
and you grow a level of I mean, maybe the word intimacy isn't necessarily the right word, but there's a level where hey man, I have a different respect for you than I've ever had before, and I've known you for so many years, right? And I hope that the feeling is mutual after, more conversations and things like
Hmm.
that. But that's kind of the way that it works, and I hope that I can't wait to be able to share even more stories and
Yeah.
make fun of Adam when he's on the show or whatever it may be. But I do have a couple of questions because obviously the story that we're trying to tell is so much deeper than just family and things like that. It's so much more than just family. However, it's such an integral part of it.
Yeah.
And obviously, there's the networking piece, but also the office furniture and office culture aspects. So one of the questions that I had was actually related to like if you were to have a blank slate, and if somebody is thinking about building their own office, like what are some like absolutely key elements that they have to consider when building an office?
Oh man, it's a great question. I spent a lot of time thinking about that too because um, out of necessity, coming out of COVID, I was trying to come up with a new slogan, right? Our old slogan used to be work plus space plus people. And it was good. I liked it, but I was like, man, I want to reinvent. Like, what is it? And I kind of created believe in your office, hashtag believe in your office, right? And so, our signatures and everything have hashtag believe in your office now. And I think when you're talking about what do you want to create when you're building an office, it's, first and foremost, like what kind of culture are you trying to build within your company, right? It's not only about furniture, it's about, you know, I would rather have my sales reps selling and crushing it on the street. But when there's 2.5 hours left in a day, rather than them going home to finish work, I would want them to be like, let me see what's going on at the office. Come in because I believe in the office. And that drives that culture, right? But in order to get people to want to come in, whether they want to come in first thing in the morning or stop in after a sales call or stay there all day or come in on the weekends when they have to get things done, you have to make it a welcoming thing. Like you have to find out what they want. So I would ask, people who own their own businesses or are leasing space or in charge of setting up space to kind of really poll the group, right? Like poll the group and say like, what are your must haves? What do you need? Right. And every company is different. There's no one answer. The blank canvas is truly blank. I mean, there may be this HR company who's like, listen, we need complete privacy and soundproofing because every day, all day, we're talking about sensitive information. Or we're working on sensitive things. Okay, great. And then there might be a marketing firm like you guys who are like, listen, we're so creative. We want people to hear what we're saying because, Josh may have a really great idea based off of what he heard Jonathan talking about on this other, you know, uh, podcast or conversation with another customer that he might go, listen, I was just thinking about this. Maybe this can happen. And we here at Boomerang talk about floor plans all the time and people are saying we're going to put this furniture here or what furniture are we going to put there, and it happens at our office in Orlando too, a common sense there. I hear it all the time. We'll send out emails or chats on Google Chat that, hey, does anyone have a good solution for this chair or this office or this, customer needs a phone booth, like what's a good phone booth that's like quiet but also spacious, and you ask these questions. So I would say blank canvas is pull in the group, find out what they need to come into the office. All right.
Mm.
And so in my years of doing this and in my what I would consider expertise, I would say, first and foremost, you got to have life in the office, right? So there's got to be vibrant spaces. You get colors, plants, um, coffee, water, you know, like a breakout area, places where people want to come and hang out, right? Like, I feel like I'm at the office, but I can just also feel like I'm chilling, right? Like televisions, so when the games are on or like when news is happening, streaming, stuff like that is like, okay, now it kind of feels like not like a traditional office where you sat in a cubicle and everyone tried to hide so that they could finish their solitaire game, right? Now it's just more about like, how are we inviting people into the office and what are we doing? Where are we collaborating? Where are we having the conversations, right? And typically in what I've seen in most companies is that the high level people are talking with the staff and saying like, what do we need to do to sell more? What do we need to do to make us more operationally, successful? What do we need to do to cut costs? What do we need to do to, you know, get more people coming to the website or whatever? And so those areas, like you don't always just want to be in, you know, a private office talking about that, but you want to be in an area where that can be something where you can thrive and meet. And so I would create a bunch of meeting areas where that works. I'd create a bunch of private areas so that people can feel private. There's things that you may not think are private, but people are like, listen, I'm a private person and I don't want them to I don't want anyone to know that I'm going on vacation for 2 weeks. And like, you know, it's like, fine, this is what I'm doing. Like, you know, I want to explain this to my HR person. I know that a lot of this stuff is like old school too, because things happen all remote, like, you know, through instantaneous things. But most importantly, I would say make sure that you know how you work and then create a space that people want to come to.
Yeah.
And that's something that, you know, you may not even know how to do. And we do it all the time. And we're really good at asking our customers the fast five, like, hey, what's your fast five? What do you do? How do you do it? How much paper do you use? How many hours a week are you in the office? You know, who does what, where? Do people like to stand? Do they like to sit? Um, you know, what do you envision, you know, people in the cafeteria? Is there one person in there? Everyone eats at their desk, or is there 50 people? You guys have parties? Do you do these things? And then we create and design this space that, you know, is something that we've used all of our, you know, 22 years of being in business saying, hey, this is what we can do. Actually 24 years of being in business. This is what we can do, and this is how we can do it. And it's included in our process. It's included in our, you know, sales. You don't pay for the designer. They're educated. They're certified design teams. They're educated in ergonomics. They're educated in just interior design in general. And we have that expertise to help you get there. But most importantly, to make your people believe in their office so that your business can then thrive in the way that you want it to, where you have people showing up every day because they want to be there, not because they're told to be there.
Amazing. And that's a great commercial right there in itself.
I know you're gonna have to clip that, I think.
100%. Absolutely will.
Mark it on
Yeah, it's already marked, man. You know, it's funny because I have a family member who works for a large tech company, and from my personal opinion, I feel like they use gimmicks in order to bring people into the office. For example, they have like free food pretty much every single day. They have events that are going on, and to me, that's not what builds culture, right? To me, what builds culture is so much more deeper than that. If you if you could give advice to somebody who is deciding whether to work from home or to open up an office, what would you say is probably one of the most important things in building culture within outside of polling, of course, building culture inside of the office? What is something that they need to implement or do or consider?
well, you know, it's self-serve. I can get really down a far rabbit hole because you know, people a lot of times will ask me that question, and it's a little self-serving, obviously, because we sell office furniture. So if people aren't going to offices, then I'm not selling as much office furniture, and then, you know, I got to figure out how to do something else. So I get it, but you know, believing in your office is like, you know, we do it. We come here. We want to come here. But I always told the staff, and we joke about it. It's like, you know, I always said, like, if you have to believe in what you do, you know, it's not about just believing in the office. You have to believe in what you do, and we believe in what we do because we think it's important, like for culture. You know, like if you were in sales, if you were a insurance salesman, but you went around every day going like, you know, insurance is legal mafia. I don't even know why we do it, just stealing money from
Mm,
people. You would not be a very good insurance salesman, right? Because you wouldn't be able to sell it because you don't believe in it. So we truly believe in our office, and I think, you know, culture is one thing, but all during COVID, I had a lot of conversations, some more heated than others, that I was like, listen, you working from home is a great thing, right? It allows you to do a lot of great things. And at one time I asked the guy, I said, well, name me your top five things that working from home allows you to do. And it went like this. Um, I don't have to get dressed.
mhm,
I don't have to commute. So I get more work done. I said, okay, good. Then it went, I can do the wash during the day. I can
mhm.
do laundry during the day. I can food shop during my lunch break, and I get the kids off the bus. And it went down, and it kind of continued going. And I said, you know, hey, listen, I said, as someone who employs people, I said, you named of the 7 things you named, 5 of them were things that were good for you. And only like one was good for the company,
Hmm.
and that's where your check comes from. That's where your livelihood is, right? And like, so it's not about you, it's about the company. Number two, I don't think that human beings are antisocial. I know some people consider themselves introverted or like, hey, I'm not as extroverted as you are. I don't like to talk or I don't like to be in social situations. But the reality of the situation is humans are not meant to be alone, right? And you're also not meant to be in the same area 24/7. I mean, it's not, I love my family, I love my wife, and we have a ridiculously amazing relationship. But you can't be around people. You have to have a different life. Like you're not, you can't be in the same scenario all the time because things become static and you don't get to kind of grow as a human being and learn other things about other cultures and other people and, have empathy and sympathy for people when things are going on because you don't know what's going on. I mean, it's one thing to ask someone for something over chat or email. It's another thing to see that someone's standing at the coffee machine a little melancholy or super excited because, their kid just got a 4.0 or they just got a ride to Harvard or they just decided that they won the state championship. And they're like, that's not like something that you're just like, hey, Jonathan, did you know my son won the state championship last week? It's like, no, that comes up in like normal conversation. And it's not only about work, it's about that's what builds culture, having people there so that they then become like your work family. Everyone jokes about
Hmm.
that, like my work wife or my work husband or my work
Hmm.
family, or this is my second family. And, there's a lot of truth in that, right? I mean, because the people you see the most outside of your own family at home every day would be the people you go to work with every day,
Hmm.
right? And so your relationships there become a very big part of your life, and they're very different if they're not in person,
Yeah.
if they're just on a screen.
Yeah.
It's like did you ever read the book Ready Player One or see the
No,
movie?
but I actually saw the movie.
Yeah, so the book is way better. The movie was good. They did a good job, but the book was in that sense I thought was a little bit better. But at the end they're like, listen, we're going to limit, even as great as this world is, like to live in virtual reality, we're going to limit it to only Tuesdays and Thursdays because
Mm.
you should live in the future, you should live in the present, not in like this virtual reality thing. And I think there's a lot of truth in that. Like just like we're here, you know, man, I'm going on a real big tangent here, Jonathan, but like, we're here, you know, Monday to Thursday, 7 to 4 in the warehouse, 8 to 5 in the office. And Friday, we work from 7 to 12 and 8 to 12 for the front office. Um, the reason why we did that is because one, I think I'm big on fairness and equality. You have to be fair, right? And so being a split workforce where we have warehouse employees and also front office employees, the front office employees can work from home whenever they want, right? But there's a large percentage of Americans that are not just working behind a computer. I mean, forget about like carpenters, plumbers, electricians, warehouses, um, you know, uh, restaurant, hospitality, healthcare, they have to go to work, right? So they just can't work remotely, right? So, it's a very small percentage of the country that works remotely, right? We're just
Mm.
in it because we live in the Northeast and, you're in a spot where a lot of the people, that's kind of how we make money. But a majority of the country does not go to work, right?
Mm.
They go to work. Um, and so, when some of the office staff here after COVID was like, we'd like to work remotely. I was like, number one, believe in your office. Number two, how is that fair to, Jim, or how is that fair to Said or Carrie that every day they're here, they're pushing out all the orders and you're just at home. You don't have the same, you're like, oh, it's going to snow tomorrow, man. Not for me. I wouldn't be at home. Right. It's like, okay, well, the snow melted by 10, you could still get in, right? Like, like those kinds of things matter because the people that are actually getting the checks to come to the company because they finished the installations are there.
Yep.
And so I said, let's make it fair. And I said, what really people want is build a culture of work to live, don't live to work.
Mm.
Right. And so, I said, how do we do that? And the reality is let's get everything done we can. So then we can spend time doing what we really want to do, which is if you're asking me to work from home, you're only asking me to work from home because that's really where you want to be.
Yep.
Right. And I get it. But the reality is you can't be there all the time.
Yep.
But if we can work only a half a day on Friday, the entire year, not just summers, the entire year, that gives you an extra half day of weekend,
Yep.
which now means you basically can do your doctor's appointments, your, running around. You can start your vacations earlier. If you take off Friday, it's only a half day instead of taking a full day off. So you actually get an extra vacation day if you plan your holidays in a way where they take home on Fridays, because you can take one for two basically.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, now that's what we're gonna do. You're not gonna work from home, but you're only gonna work till 12 on Fridays. I'm just implementing that now in Orlando. I think it's gonna work tremendously. I think people
Nice.
really love it. But it's, hey, how do we work to live, not live to work? And
Mm-hmm.
and that's and that's one of the things to kind of like build culture. It's like office, and it's, hey, make money because they need to do what they want to do with their family.
Yep.
That's what it is. So um I don't know if I answered your questions.
No, you did. The beauty of it is that even if you didn't, all sounds good, and
Yeah.
it makes you look like a boss, and obviously you are a boss, and an incredible leader at that. I did have more questions, but to be honest with you, I think you kind of hinted at every single one that I had. So I don't really have much more to say other than this final question. If you were to, if absolutely no one had any idea what Boomerang was, and you wanted to kind of sell and pitch the business, how would you explain Boomerang office furniture to them, and how would you be able to openly help them achieve whatever it is that they want to achieve in their business?
We don't just sell office furniture, right? Everyone goes, "What do you do?" Like, what do you do for a living? What do you have? I own a big commercial office furniture business. A lot of times when we're at cocktail parties, I'll tell people, I'm like, I just sell used chairs. And then my wife hits me and she's like, that's not what he does. He designs office spaces, and it's great. They create environments for workplace, and
Mm,
you know, and the truth is that, yeah, we don't just sell office furniture, right? We create spaces to help your company thrive and really create or execute the work that they're trying to execute at the highest potential and the highest output level. And so that includes furniture, right? I mean, obviously, some people may want to stand, some people may want to sit, and we talked about that earlier. But you know, we really pride ourselves in making sure that each individual business is maximizing output and building the culture that they want to build to increase the overall worth of their company, right? And worth not just financially, but worth, like, why do people want to come work for you? Why do people want to be in your office? Why do people want to be around you? Because you guys have created something that is a place that it kind of becomes second home or second family. So, that's kind of what we do here, and we just basically provide solutions for people. We're a solution provider. When others say no, we just say, listen, we'll figure out how to do it. It's not hard. We're not doing open heart surgery. We're not doing brain surgery. If your chair comes in damaged, we'll get you another one. If it's the wrong color, oops. And a lot of people in work can't say that, right? Like, you make a mistake in a lot of fields of work, specifically healthcare, or you know, you could really have a bad day, or someone else could have a really bad day. At the end of the day, our stuff is inconsequential in nature, but highly consequential when it comes to the future of, the business and what it's trying to do for the society or its industry or growth in general. Because these are the tools, and we provide the tools you need to actually make everything as successful as you envision it.
beautiful. Well said, Josh. Thank you so much for believing in your office and believing in me, more so to kind of use this new vehicle in order to meet new people and to share more stories. The first ever episode was recorded just now by you. I promise you it's going to be a lot better than Adam's. And so we will be, no, I'm just kidding. We will be, we'll
That
be featuring more stories in the very
maybe that's the
future.
name. Believe in your office.
That's a good one. I don't hate that. But cool. So
Maybe we'll pull the group.
we'll pull the group just like you pull all of the
Yeah.
customers in order to go from there, and then we'll who knows what it's going to be. But this was a great conversation, and Josh, thank you for your time.
Right on. Thanks, Jonathan.
You've been listening to Boom Podcast, proudly brought to you by Boomerang Office Furniture. If you're looking to upgrade your workspace with ergonomic chairs, sleek desks, or smart office solutions, we invite you to explore our full range at boomerangofficefurniture.com. Thanks for listening. Be sure to catch our next episode. Until then, stay inspired, stay productive,